Quick question. How many of you are from retail industry or have anything to do with retail? 4 hands? 3 hands? Okay, for everybody else, then this is a 101 course on retail industry. I will spend a lot of time talking about AI and some of the critical aspects to that. And in the later part of my talk, I'm going to spend a little bit of time on how it's being used by some of the largest retailers in the world. And there could be some very relevant use cases for people sitting in the room as well. Most of my focus is going to be on how to use AI to compete profitably, right? AI, and there was a lot of discussions earlier, and even in the previous panel, there was a question about cost relating to AI. I would try and prove to you that you invest in this area, it's going to give you returns in spades. Can I have the next slide? I mean, oh, is this the one? Okay. Yeah. Okay. I won't go to the enterprise side. Let me start with the consumer side of things, right? You guys are seeing a lot of the glamorous stuff that's happening with AI. You have Siri that you're able to interact with, and Siri is getting smarter every day. So is Cortana. You have self-driven cars. So in the consumer space, it is becoming more and more apparent. How many of you have used Google Photos? Okay, a lot of you. There's a very interesting addition coming up to Google Photos in terms of functionality. Are you guys aware of that? In fact, there was this video going around of Sundar Pichai speaking about it. So they're going to add this ability. So you go to a party, you meet with a lot of your friends, taking a lot of pictures. They're going to have this ability for you to classify, and it's going to give you the option of putting pictures together and sending it to people who are in those photographs. Today, you have to do it manually. They're going to kind of automate and help you do this faster. So all these devices are getting niftier, right? The moment you switch over to the enterprise side of things and kind of really lift the hood, you start to see the real challenges, right? It's no more as glamorous. It's no more as nifty. A lot of organizations think they can throw data, have this kind of black box called algorithms or whatever, and then you put data through it and you have output coming on the other side. Well, the reality is a lot more complex than that. There's a lot of work to be done before you start seeing value. Enterprises, by definition, generate a lot of data, right? The challenge is all this data sits in different silos. You look at your own companies, right? If you are a bank, you will have a core banking system. That's your system of record. You will have a loan origination or a mortgage system that's going to be running on a completely different platform, and other silos on the retail banking, et cetera. It's the same thing in other industries as well. And what enterprises have done over the last 10 to 15 years is have this ability, use analytics to break these silos, extract data from all these data islands, bring them together, and start using analytics and making some business decisions. Businesses have definitely become smarter for using that. Just when people think they've got a handle on this, the cheese moves again, the goal shifts. Businesses are getting more and more integrated, if I can use the word. Businesses are operating more and more in an ecosystem where things that are happening outside the organization is beginning to impact them. There is a lot of data that gets generated outside the organization, outside your firewalls, that are impacting your business, that are becoming very, very relevant for you. So is there a way for companies or enterprises to integrate that external data as well into that internal data set? So let me give you a very specific example. We are all consumers. 5, 7, 10 years ago, if we wanted to buy a TV, we will walk into a store, look at what's there, pick the one that we think made sense. At best, we would have gone to a second, maybe a third store. By the time you went to the third store, you're so tired, you just want to pick up a TV. Cut over to today. Today, you're going to first do your own research, maybe start at Google, go to Amazon, whatever, do research on which are the best models, what sizes, et cetera, right? then you're going to have 5 screens open from 5 different retailers to say who's giving you the best deal. In that environment, if I'm trying to sell my TV to you, there's no way my internal data set is going to help me, right? Because you're going to make a decision based on what the other guys are doing, not just what I'm doing. So it is going to become more and more imperative for organizations to start integrating this external data sets. Digital wants to go online, and I wouldn't be surprised if Uber Eats or Amazon restaurants at some point in time will offer you street food from different parts of Bangalore, just offering street foods, right? So this is changing the way world is working, right? It's massive, it's got data for all kinds of industries, and it's publicly accessible. Anybody can access them. But the problem is, it is extremely noisy. It's extremely unstructured. There is text, there is videos, there's streaming videos, there's ticker tapes, there's PDFs. It's in all kinds of forms, shapes, and sizes. So it's not like you can go and plug data from the web and put it in and start to use it. And it's dynamic, it's changing every day. So can AI help organizations get that value of using external data essentially from the web, which is the largest source of data known to humankind at this point in time, and make it more usable? Now, there's something very interesting on the AI side, right? Even as the technology starts to get better, you all know that it requires enormous amounts of training data for AI to really work, right? Algorithms are not just going to start working overnight unless you're feeding it constantly a lot of training data. So if you kind of see the pattern, there's something very interesting that's emerging now. You have AI as a technology that's maturing and getting ready for prime time. There are already very interesting applications, but AI requires a lot of training data, and as you feed more data, it gets better. And I cut over to the other side. Businesses are getting influenced by, heavily disrupted by what's going on in the web, and web is the largest source of data. So if there is a way for us to start bringing the two pieces together in an elegant way, in a practical way, then perhaps you would be creating environments for a perfect storm, where you would be creating a really virtuous cycle where data from the web starts to get into an AI system, trains it, keeps getting it better, and then you start to push it back, and then the whole cycle continues. It has tantalizing possibilities. So I'm going to share with you a model that does it today, right? So view it like a 4-stage booster rocket that's going to launch your AI ambitions, if you will. Your ambition to use this enormous treasure trove of data sitting on the web and bringing it and using it to drive better decisions in your businesses. It all starts with data aggregation. It all starts with how do we scoop out the data that's sitting on the web. And in the previous session, somebody spoke about scraping, spoke a little bit about crawling or whatever, right? So there are several techniques that we can use to bring in enormous amount of data that's sitting on the web in whatever form, shape, size it is in. And even while doing that, we use AI capabilities. So for example, there are several websites that don't let you aggregate data, that blocks bots, right? So, and you can use AI to get around some of these bot blockers as well. So there are techniques available to aggregate data at enormous scale. Once the data is in, it is still a lot of like raw earth, right? You still have to clean it up, curate it, normalize the data, remove a lot of noise, and get the data really decked up and ready to run it through your analytics layer, if you will. Once the data set is ready, you run it through your AI and machine learning layers. The challenge there, again, is AI is getting smarter, but in terms of cognition, in terms of thinking ability, it's still nowhere near humans. So one of the things that we did was to still overlay it with a certain amount of human-in-the-loop approach. Essentially, we had a man-machine integration. So what happened was the AI layer would run the analytics, and there'll be humans who will kind of give it a once-over, make the corrections, et cetera, and use it as a training data to feed back to the AI layer. So essentially, what are we doing? We are using human intelligence to make the AI engine smarter. And this virtuous loop has been one of the big changes that we have implemented, that we have seen over the last year and a half, that's showing tremendous results. And once the data is ready and it's done with the analysis, you have two choices. Either, and this is all external data, mind you, so far, right? We've gotten everything from the web. You can either inject your internal data or integrate your internal data sets with this external data and now run your analytics on a much larger data set, or just use the external data and run it through and make decisions based on that. I'll give you a very specific example here. So when retailers do price optimization, that is, and if you, I mean, you guys are online these days, right? You will see the prices changing every day. Why does it change? That it changes because they are seeing changes driven by other retailers, driven by other players in the market, right? And they either react to what's going on in the market, or they integrate it with their internal data and then make their price changes, right? So both those options are available. But essentially, this is an engine that is going to help you bring in the external data, clean it up, use it for analysis, integrate it with internal data so that you're making far better business decisions, irrespective of the industry. And your actions goes back into the market and the cycle starts all over again. So essentially what I have so far, what I've covered is how external data is becoming critical for businesses, and what is a methodology for bringing it in and using it. And every industry should care about it because everybody's affected by what's going on. I will now translate this into some real-life examples, some of the things that we have done, that we have learned from. So, and the whole purpose is to just share our experience, forget who we did it for and what we do, et cetera. This is just to give you real-life examples. And I'm going to start narrowing it down because application for AI is all over the place, and we can talk for the next 3 days. But I'm going to narrow it down to just two very specific perspectives. One is competitive intelligence. Every business operates in a competitive environment, right? Every business is competing for its customers' mind share and share of wallet. And businesses that compete more effectively tends to win, right? So if you take, for example, the travel and hospitality industry, it's a great example. More than 50% of business in this industry comes from online businesses. It's probably the largest ratio. Just to give you an example, in retail, less than 10% of the business is online. Though we hear a lot about what's going on in the online world, less than 10% of retail business is online. Everything else is still brick and mortar, is still stores. In travel, it's 50%. So if you take large OTAs, online travel agencies like Expedia, they are watching every minute what, let's say, a Booking.com is doing with hotel rooms. They're watching them worldwide across hundreds of thousands of properties. And they're trying to see what's Booking charging in a hotel in a city for a room type, right? And then Expedia is constantly calibrating its prices to what's going on there. Direct competitive intelligence driving both tactics and strategy in Expedia benchmark to Bookings.com. If you cut over to the other side, on the market intelligence side, this is here, users are not looking for competitive insights, but they are looking for market intelligence. So if you look at hedge funds, historically, they would make decisions on whether to trade with a certain ticker or a script or share based on some analyst, consensus estimate of analysts, or based on some secondary reports put out by some sell-side research companies. That whole world is changing now with this play called alternative data, where they are looking for data sets outside of those traditional data sets to start making their own calls on what's happening with the business. So for example, if I'm investing in retail industry, right, and I keep going back to retail, I'm sorry about that, but it's very interesting. If I'm tracking, let's say, Target, if I'm an investor in Target and I want to make a decision how Target is going to do next quarter, right, I will look at analysts and all those people, but if I look at the top 100,000 products of Target, and if I watch it every day, and if I see what's happening with the pricing on those products, okay, and how does it compare with the previous quarter, immediately I'll know, is there a pricing pressure on Target? And if there's a pricing pressure and the average realization is going down, it's a very clear indication that they're going to have a hard quarter because the top 100,000 SKUs, and it could be top million SKUs, or it could be top 10,000. I mean, you pick. Essentially, that data set starts to give you a leading indicator on how Target is going to do this quarter, right? So more and more Wall Street companies are moving towards analyzing market data and making those decisions. I will now get specifically to retail. I've been alluding to a lot of retail examples, but I want to specifically talk about retail and really see how AI and ML is driving this industry now. It's very relevant for us because there's a lot of action going on with retail here. Walmart went and picked up Flipkart. There are several other M&As going on. Volumes are growing. So there's a lot of action going on. If you see the international scenario, I don't know how many of you heard of this term called the retail apocalypse, where they said, my God, all the big retailers are going to die, stores are closing everywhere, online is going to take over, Amazon is going to rule the world, et cetera, right? There are those dire predictions. And they were backed by the fall of Toys R Us, the fall of Radio Shack, and almost an imminent fall of Sears. I mean, these are huge names in retail. Probably many of you are aware of these things. So there was that perception that the brick and mortar is dying and online is taking over. Well, it's not really so. Amazon is opening stores. Amazon is buying companies like Whole Foods because of their physical stores. So what's going on here, right? Just when everybody said online is going to take over, Amazon is going offline, right? And on this side, Walmart goes and buys Jet.com for essentially their AI capabilities. Because Walmart realized that they can take years and years to build a team and build those capabilities, or go and acquire someone and give them a free hand. And it's the Jet.com team that's now running Walmart Labs, which is an online business. And that's seeing this huge resurgence of Walmart. So essentially what's happening is two opposite forces are coming this way, and the battle is coming on to what is called as the Omnichannel battle, which essentially means how do you serve a customer seamlessly across multiple channels? Why am I sharing all this industry kind of perspective with you? Because it's extremely relevant, and this is where they are doing this whole omni-channel battle is going to run on, and the winners are going to be determined by who is leveraging technology, especially around artificial intelligence. So, and if Amazon got this huge edge, that is because Amazon invested in this technology 15 years ago, even when it was in nascent stage, right? And they continue to refine it, and that's one of the reasons they continue to keep an edge over everybody else. I will talk about very specific use cases of AI in the retail now. So I'm going to pick up three areas: competitive pricing, and pricing is probably the single biggest lever. In my previous example, as I said, you're going to look around and see who's giving you the best deal, and you're going to pick up your TV from that source. So if a retailer has to win the price war at any point in time, they have to be constantly watching what's going on with their competitors' prices, right? They have to, so their pricing cannot be based on what the price yesterday was, or last week, or last month, which is how it was done all the time. Using AI, now they're able to see what's the price today, and more importantly, predict the price, see the trajectory in which it's going to go, and then start pricing their product based on what we call as a price elasticity, right? They use AI extensively to start doing pricing. The second area is assortment. What's the product mix that they're going to carry, right? They cannot carry products that sold yesterday, last week, or last month. They have to sell the products that's in demand today, but more importantly, what's likely to be in demand tomorrow. So they have to be smart about it. Similarly, they have to drive their promotions based on where the market is headed. I'm going to spend a little bit of time, and I think people spoke a little bit about these technologies. I'm going to spend a little bit of time on three aspects. One is data acquisition. As I said, everything starts there. If you're able to bring the data from the web, that's where the game starts. And as I mentioned, it's a big challenge, but it's something that has been surmounted now. The second area is natural language processing. It is exactly the way it is, right? In other words, systems that can read and understand what is being written and extract relevant meanings out of it, extract context out of it. The third area is computer vision. We also call it image analytics. Essentially, how can you extract metadata out of an image and start to make sense out of it? These are the three areas where there's a lot of work going on our side, as well as other companies in the same area that's playing out in the retail space. And then that leads to solving some very, very specific problems or very, very specific scenario. Here's an example. We did this project for one of the leading brands of oats in the market, and they introduced this thing called steel-cut oats, right? Apparently healthier, better, etc. So they wanted to understand what are consumers thinking about steel-cut oats, right? So we went and aggregated over 5,000 reviews from one of the retailer sites, and we used essentially our natural language processing capabilities to understand what are consumers saying about this. And we picked up several details around it. Some of it is kind of very interesting, some of the things that they didn't even think about. And we extract these capabilities and then put them in form of a score to say that what are consumers talking about. So in this case, for example, they said that packaging is bad. Great product, very healthy, packaging is bad. And that we extract very specific comments around that. A parallel example could be, if I'm a cell phone company, I launched a new model, and if I do a similar exercise, it could be great product, fantastic camera, great screen, battery sucks, right? So when we're able to parse through the text feedback, we extract this kind of insights. It's very interesting because if I'm that cell phone company, then I'll say, okay, the battery sucks part, if it's really true, then it's an input to the product guys to go and fix it. If it's not true, then it's an input to the marketing guys to go and fight the perception and correct it and bring it back, right? So, and we have done projects where we've looked at 65,000 feedbacks verbatim and then done this kind of an analysis, all using NLP. The second area was image analytics, and there are a couple of gory pictures there. It essentially shows how we cut out noise and focus only on the object. And in this case, we're trying to extract data on that kurti that person is wearing. Or in the other picture, we're trying to extract data around the shirt she's wearing, including what kind of collar is it, does it have a flap, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So retailers, especially clothing retailers, use this to kind of figure out what kind of assortment they should carry. What's in fashion, or what are the other guys carrying? Am I missing some colors, some palettes, some designs, and how do I add it back, right? So they make some of those critical decisions based on this kind of an analysis that we provide to them. Now, this is purely text, this is purely image analytics or computer vision. When we bring the two together, literally magic happens, right? This is a case study of a company that manufactures covers, board covers, grill covers, etc. And they were having massive problems around counterfeit products. I'm sure for many of you who are part of brands, this is going to be an issue for you as well. And it's growing because now there are sellers from all over the markets. There are cross-border sales going on there. So there's a lot of spurious and counterfeit products out there in the market. Some of you could be victims of that as well. So we used our text and image analytics capabilities together. And in this instance, we identified sellers who were just stealing their images, putting it as their own, shut them down. We identified sellers who are using the image, just remove the brand and putting their brand, so essentially selling a counterfeit, so we shut them down. So there are various kinds of stealing going on, and we're able to help these brands kind of go after those guys and minimize their losses. They're never going to eliminate this. But for us to do that, we had to use both our capabilities around NLP and in computer vision. I spoke to you about pricing, right, and competitive pricing. There, it's very critical that we identify apples to apples, right? That's when it makes sense. The same T-shirt, in this example, it's the same T-shirt but with very different images, very different descriptions. Sorry. We have the ability to match these kinds of products irrespective of how they appear. We also have the ability to match similar looking products. The one at the bottom is an example, right? Different images, very similar products, but not same products, but it could be a good substitute. The goal here is to help retail companies identify products that are identical, as well as identify products that are very close substitutes, and tell them what's going on with those products with the other retailers. So they can drive their pricing strategy with this. All these capabilities, our ability to aggregate enormous amounts of data, our ability to process enormous amounts of feedback or whatever, text data with our NLP capabilities and image capabilities, all came into play when we started serving this customer. The name is not here, but this is Overstock. They're one of the largest retailers in the US. Actually, they are in multiple countries, and they sell multiple products, but the core is furnitures and home improvement products, right? And furnitures especially, there are a lot of these private label products, which means it's not a brand, or it's a homegrown brand. By the way, Amazon is beginning to sell a lot of their homegrown brands as well. So we used all our capabilities, and for them, we match 2.5 million SKUs. We are refreshing pricing on them every week. There's a core of 50,000 products that is rotating often, that we are tracking every day. And these guys and we are tracking 68 of their competitors. Enormous amount of data, enormous amount of processing, but something that they are using and it's impacting literally hundreds of millions of dollars of their business. It is mission critical for them, and they are running it on our technology. But the point is, they are using AI to kind of bring all these pieces together, and they are really taking on some of the biggest traditional retailers. Here's a very quick list of all the other customers we work with. The interesting thing here is there are some very, very big names there. There are also some very small retailers there, like OfferUp or QEP. QEP is a very small retailer of building materials in the Midwest of US. Very small company, but they feel that they have to use this to compete with the bigger players. And then at the other end of the spectrum, we have the Amazons of the world that we work with. So the point is, this technology is relevant for everyone, irrespective of your size. There are ways to kind of adapt this to your unique environments and solve your specific set of problems. We also work with partners. There's a bunch of them at the bottom. Some of them are consulting partners. They use our technology and consult with their customers, again, across different verticals. So to summarize, essentially, you know, AI, and I'm sure I'm kind of just repeating what you guys have heard, but the point I want to make is AI is going to be a way of life in several aspects of your business, and you need the training data set constantly to keep improving your AI capability. And that training data set potentially is available for you on the web. So if you have a way to put a giant straw, suck the data from the web, and bring it in, you can start building a very, very positive cycle from there, right? So go and explore. There's a lot of interesting things happening in the AI world. Thanks a lot for listening to me.